The Thabo Mbeki Foundation, in partnership with the Thabo Mbeki Africa School of Public and International Relations, or International Affairs rather, will host the 14th annual Thabo Mbeki Africa Day lecture. This year, the lecture is delivered by Senegalese Professor Abdoulaye Bathily, and the theme, the new International Scramble for Africa and the challenges of unity. Professor Bathily served as a special representative for Libya and head of the United Nations support mission in Libya between 2022 and April of 2024. He joins us in studio now ahead of the lecture that he delivers as the keynote speaker. Prof, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me on your program.
And it's really good to have you in studio with us as well. I know that you obviously have a lot to do in preparation for the lecture that you'll be delivering this evening. It's one of the key events that takes place as we celebrate Africa Day, particularly for South Africans. And the theme, the new International Scramble for Africa and Challenges of Unity. I think a very important theme, right? What you make of the argument that Africa has a new voice in the geopolitical landscape, and whether or not we're using that voice particularly in the time that we're in?
Well, certainly Africa has a new voice on the new international order. However, this voice is not used as efficiently as it should have been. Because Africa is today facing a number of challenges for its unity, for its independence, and this is why today all the thinkers about African affairs are considering what to do given the challenges we are facing today. External foreign interference in African affairs, the issues of development, the issues of cultural progress, the issues of social progress. All these are issues which are of importance for the African citizens today. Yeah. And the issues is about how to build a new Africa, how to investigate, to revisit the liberation process in Africa over the last 60 years or so.
Yeah, I think that where the geopolitical question, of course, and the influence of Africa really comes in, really speaks to some of the bigger wars that we are seeing playing out in the world, certainly between Ukraine and Russia, and the battle between Palestine and Israel, or Hamas and Israel, if you will. And, you know, with South Africa even going all the way to the ICJ, there is a sense that Africa has a role to play even in saying, well, do we choose sides and can we play middleman, and all the resources that are necessary from us to be part of that conversation. What do you say to that?
Well, Africa has experienced colonialism, different forms of dependency. And Africa can play a role in all those conflicts worldwide, but from the perspective of liberation. And this is why Africans are, really supporting very much the position of South Africa, because we cannot be just neutral on those conflicts, because those conflicts, whether you look at Gaza or Ukraine or the conflicts on the ground in Africa itself, all these are in one way or the other linked to the issue of liberation, to the issue of progress of humanity. So we cannot be neutral on those issues. So our voice should be heard to tell clearly that we are on the side of those who want to liberate the peoples, those who want a better humanity.
Yeah. How do we do that, though, when we have such a heavy reliance, for instance, on the West for aid on the continent, and even in some cases support and resources for political movements on the continent?
Well, aid does not exist, in a matter of fact. Africa is rich. Africa has tremendous wealth. The scramble of Africa is about the continent resources, the continent wealth. The issue is how the Africans themselves can organize to take advantage of the resources, to cater for education, better health. And this can be done only if there is a vision among the leadership, if there is a decisive commitment of the leadership to change the course of the African history, to shape the destiny of Africa towards liberations, towards progress.
You know, you use the word liberation, and it's hard not to look at where some countries are, I suppose, in their democratic reform and transformation. We're going into all-important elections next week as a country, and there's an expectation that there's going to be, again, I use this word, a change in the dispensation of our very country, something that your own home country, Senegal, has just recently seen. What stands out is that there was, in the run-up to the elections in Senegal, former President Thabo Mbeki in South Africa talking about really wanting to speak to former President Macky Sall to say, make way for these elections, for the people of Senegal to vote in the leader of their choice. And what they've done is they've voted in the youngest leader that Senegal has ever seen at 44 years old and fresh out of prison. Now, when we talk about what that transformation needs to look like as the world looks to Africa for resources and even sway in the geopolitics of the world, do we have the right people coming into the leadership to be able to use that power that Africa certainly seemingly starting to have effectively?
When you consider what is going on the continent today, is a push for young people to have better leadership. This is undoubtedly the case. Young people has to be aware of the fact that, of course, the issue is not to come back to the past, because what we have seen in the past, whether it's colonialism, classical colonialism, as Senegal has witnessed, or the apartheid system, we cannot go back to this. Colonialists and apartheids, proponents of apartheid cannot give us lessons about how to make progress, because for hundreds of years, they have kept us in that situation of deprivation, dispossession. And today, we have to learn from our lessons, the lessons of the past. We have to learn from our mistakes, our errors, our shortcomings, and to move forward, not to go backward. So the young people has to distinguish very much what is at stake today. What is at stake is not to go back to the past, but to improve on what is at stake here today on the continent. So we need progressive leadership. We need leaders who are really committed to the cause of the people, not to, again, trust those who have created that conditions for 100 years of domination, 100 years of exploitation of Africa. Therefore, it is important, and what has happened in Senegal is about that. How to improve the situations, how to take stock of the errors and the mistakes, the shortcomings of the previous regime and improve on it.
Yeah. There is the question, though, about leaders, certainly of your own generation, if you'll allow me, Prof, to say, well, what responsibility then do you have to ensure that those that are still holding on to the levers of power and not allowing for that fresh blood to come in? What is the role that you then need to be playing, while also sharing the knowledge that it's necessary for young African leaders to be able to play their role in this world that is, you know, seeing massive geopolitical shifts?
As far as I'm concerned, a number of people of my generation have retired from day-to-day politics. But our convictions are still there. We are still hoping for a better Africa. We are still committed to the improvement of the living conditions of the people of Africa. We are committed to the cause of independence and liberation of the continent. So we are here to support, and when we are asked, we are here also to to give our ideas, our perspectives, because we cannot break from the history. History is always vivacious, and younger generations should learn from the lessons of the past struggles.
Okay, and Prof, I'm going to wrap it up, but I'm going to close it off with this. It's Africa Day, and I think on this day, the continent is asked to look inward and see how it can work together to solve a lot of its very own problems. But we seem to be moving into a time when nationalism really is starting to take, the fore. And this is on a global scale, where each country is starting to look inward instead of really starting to think of even the idea of a renaissance being something that's, some may argue, a dying idea. What do you say to that, and what do you want us to think about on this Africa Day as we wrap up?
No, Renaissance is still very much on the agenda. There is no way to escape from Renaissance. It is really the ultimate goal for past generation, for this generation and the coming generations. Africans people have been downtrodden for hundreds of years. They have to take, as I said, their destiny in their own hands. This is what Renaissance is about. Therefore, younger generations have to work together with older generations, because to be young is today's situation.
Yes.
But the young people of today will be the older people of tomorrow.
Yes.
Therefore, we have to take the lessons from the older generations to work together.
Absolutely. All right, and there's an opportunity for you to take some of those lessons then this evening at the 14th Annual Thabo Mbeki Africa Day Lecture. It's taking place this evening at the Gallagher Convention Centre. The keynote address, of course, delivered by Professor Abdoulaye Bathily, who is a Senegalese politician and diplomat who's in studio with us. All the best for the lecture this evening.
Thank you very much indeed.